So we're going to talk about Toy Story and Pixar films in general and whether they follow the hero's journey, the 12 stages of the hero's journey as outlined by this gentleman here, Christopher Vogler. So, do the Pixar films follow this paradigm? There's no proof out there. We do know some things about how the Pixar story teams write, but what we do know historically is that Vogler had a big influence on storytelling in movies, in mainstream movies in Hollywood, starting in the mid '80s. And I would say that it's a pretty good bet that everybody at Pixar was well aware of the hero's journey paradigm. So Vogler wrote a very famous memo in 1985 that was a 5-page summary of Joseph Campbell's book, The Hero with a Thousand Faces, and how it relates to classic film structure, mythic story structure in film. And of course, Disney was very closely tied to Pixar when Toy Story was made, giving lots of story notes. And unfortunately, Disney's input on Toy Story wasn't that helpful. But of course, everybody at Pixar would have been well versed. And everybody in the story team would have been well versed in the hero's journey. It was big back in the 90s in particular. And Vogler wrote a book, an expanded version of his memo in 1992. He's revised it a number of times. And what we do know for sure is that Vogler has a story credit on The Lion King. And The Lion King was, of course, a huge, massive success in the early 90s, just before Toy Story came out. So it's undeniable that Pixar story artists and writers would have not taken the hero's journey into consideration. So what if we apply the lens of the hero's journey to the movie? Does it actually fit? And I'd say it fits pretty well. Pretty close, I would say. So these, again, are the stages of the hero's journey according to Vogler. They're slightly different and a fewer stages than Joseph Campbell. He used slightly different terminology. So I'm going to go with the Vogler terminology because that's what filmmakers, screenwriters talk about. So the ordinary world in Toy Story is set up in the first few minutes. It's a world where toys come to life when humans aren't in the room. And there's a fantastic, fun band of toys, and their unofficial leader is Woody. And everything's going just great until Woody's person, Andy, has a birthday party, and he gets a fantastic new toy, the Buzz Lightyear action figure. Now, this should be fun. A new friend, a new toy, an exciting adventure-seeking guy, Buzz Lightyear, or toy he is. But Woody's not so crazy about Buzz. He's worried about being displaced at the top of the toy hierarchy, which he is, pretty much. So Woody's trying to dampen things with Buzz. He's trying to get the other toys to stay loyal to him, and it's just not working. The other toys love Buzz. He's fun. He is the call to adventure. He is all about adventure. He can fly. Woody can see through all of this, and he just wants his old world to exist the way it had before Buzz shows up. So then the only step that is a little curious and tricky, and some people don't really think it exists in Toy Story, is meeting the mentor. But if you think about what Woody ultimately has to do, which is become an ally and a friend to Buzz to restore this sense of community that we see at the beginning of the movie, then you understand that Buzz is, in a way, his mentor. He's a mentor that he rejects and a mentor that he doesn't want. But also Andy, and seeing Andy playing with Buzz, in understanding that ultimately it's Andy's love and affection that Woody wants, that all toys want to be used and loved. Woody learns from both Andy and Buzz, even though Buzz isn't aware that he's a mentor. So there's a couple of threshold moments. They're very obvious. There's the world inside. There's the toys world of Toy Story, and it's inside the safety of Andy's room and Andy's home. And Buzz falls out first. He falls through the window, accidentally on purpose, pushed by Woody. And he topples down. This is a high-angle shot of him falling into the bushes. And then moments later, when Woody realizes what he's done and he's seriously messed up, he goes to try and save Buzz, and they both wind up stranded here at this parking lot, or at this gas station. And these expansive shots at the gas station really show this huge divide, this other world that they're crossing into. I mean, they're already there, but visually it's really, really strong in this sequence. So then that throws us into the middle of the movie, the fun act where lots of challenges happen. There's lots of tests. We meet new people and allies, and we're very clear about who our enemies are. So they're stuck at the gas station. These guys are not getting along. They are fighting. Buzz realizes what happened. He's pissed off at Woody. Woody's just trying to make things right. And there's many, many tests. Here are but a few. You know, Woody almost gets run over, and then they find the pizza truck. So Woody goes in the back, and he gets thrown around. They sneak into the pizza parlor. All sorts of fun and games ensue. They get stuck in the game there where they meet the little green guys who become allies, and we see them in all the other Toy Story movies. And of course, there is no greater enemy than Sid. We've been introduced to Sid earlier. From the safety of the ordinary world, the toys look across the way and they see Sid destroying and badgering and blowing up all the toys. And of course, you know, Sid's place is basically hell for toys. So Sid gets them and he takes them home. And that's where we enter the innermost cave. So literally you can see the two of them, Woody and Buzz here, in this backpack in this dark, closed, cave-like environment, watching the inside of Sid's room. They're locked in, and this is his little workshop where he destroys, picks apart toys, does all sorts of horrible things to them. And another moment of being in the innermost cave is a more internal one. A little while later, we see Buzz happen upon this TV commercial for the Buzz Lightyear toy, and he comes to this deep personal realization that Woody's right. He isn't Buzz Lightyear, he's a toy. I mean, he is Buzz Lightyear, but... So this is innermost cave of you know, the personality inside the psyche, but it's nonetheless devastating, and it's a great contrast to the physicality of what Woody's going through. Meanwhile, he's back in the room and he sees these creepy mutant toys, and he's, you know, quite terrified, rightly so. So the supreme ordeal ensues from this, and we see that Buzz, who is now, you know, just sunken into a major depression, he's kind of nonverbal at this realization that he's just a toy. He's going to be blown up, and Woody is watching on, not able to do anything because he's stuck inside this bin. So the supreme ordeal, of course, you know, death. There couldn't be any supremer ordeal. But Woody manages to turn it around, and he realizes that the toys are not evil, that they are in fact allies and friends. And here we have a mirror of the opening where he's kind of holding court and making a plan and working with the other toys, and he's recaptured and recreated this sense of community. In fact, he's broadened it to take in all the outcasts and the weirdos, the toys that have been recombined and mutated. So, you know, the sword is really his ability to reconnect with the other toys in the community and overcome these obstacles, and also reconnect and make friends with Buzz. So, of course, they are victorious over Sid, but that's not it. They're not done yet, because they've escaped, but Andy's gone. The truck has just driven off, and how the heck are they going to catch up with it? So, literally, the road back is pretty clear. It's very visible, like the threshold. So there's quite a fun chase scene. You know, if one thing we're used to in the Pixar movies is all the hijinks in the middle with the test allies and enemies and all the conflict and all the obstacles that get thrown at us, that final long sequence of the crisis climax is so incredibly satisfying in the Pixar films. It's the climax, and it has many false starts, and it goes on for quite a while, and it's always got you on the edge of your seat, and it's always a lot of fun. So this is, I think, a moment, more than one moment, where we get this notion of resurrection, because, of course, we think that both toys are goners in the middle. You know, when the firecrackers taped onto Buzz, we think they're done, they're going to die. So there's a form of resurrection there, but when I was analyzing the film even more carefully, I noticed this interesting juxtaposition of exactly where, according to Vogler, if you follow the stages in sequence, which you don't have to, of course, but it sure looks like it here that they did. So here are all the toys, all the disciples, as it were, misunderstanding Woody and tossing him off the truck, sacrificing him, getting their vengeance. But guess what? He manages to soar with the help of his friend, because you've got a friend in me indeed, right? So if this isn't a resurrection, I don't know what is. Woody's tossed onto the pavement, left behind, not welcome to come along, and forsaken, as it were, by the other toys. But he manages to rise again, and he and Buzz fly into, the proverbial sunset, and they manage to get back on the truck, and they're reunited, and they return with the elixir. Is, of course, this sense of community, of the toys being whole again, of the toys having this community that's now expanded, of course, being with Andy, and both of them here are being hugged by Andy. Andy's embracing both of them, and order's been restored, and Woody's back in the game, but he's also learned to share the power a little bit with Buzz. And they are now best buddies. A couple of kisses from Bo Peep. It's not really a romantic interest so much. It's not a rom-com, but it's a classic touch at the end of the story for the hero's journey. Multiple elixirs. So we've got the girl, the best friend, and of course Andy embracing both of them. So there we go. We can certainly see a very clear hero's journey path through the first Pixar feature film and the first computer-generated feature film ever made, and that would be Toy Story, released in 1995.